The tears streaming down Marcus Ashford's face weren't supposed to happen. Not here, not now. Not for a man who had built a $3 billion empire without shedding a single tear in 40 years. But there he sat, in a moth-eaten Santa suit in the basement of a crumbling community center in East Portland, holding a 7-year-old girl who had just whispered 7 words that shattered every wall he'd ever built around his heart. 7 words that would haunt him forever. 7 words he never saw coming. 24 hours earlier, Marcus Ashford was untouchable. The kind of man who fired executives over coffee and closed deals that changed entire industries before lunch. His penthouse overlooking the Willamette River cost more than most people earned in 10 lifetimes. His watch could feed a family for a year. His shoes cost more than the rent in the neighborhood he was about to visit. But money couldn't buy what his wife Helena saw missing in his eyes every morning: his humanity. "You've become a ghost, Marcus," Helena had said the night before, her voice breaking as she stood in their marble kitchen. "You walk through life like nothing touches you anymore. When did you stop feeling? When did you stop seeing people?" Marcus had barely looked up from his phone. "I see plenty. I employ 12,000 people. I donate millions. You write checks," Helena interrupted, her green eyes flashing with something between anger and desperation. "But when was the last time you actually looked into someone's eyes and saw them, really saw them?" She slid a red velvet Santa suit across the granite counter. "Christmas Eve, Roosevelt Community Center. You're going to be Santa Claus for the poorest kids in Portland. No assistants, no security, no one knowing who you really are, just you and them." Marcus had laughed, actually laughed. "You want me to play dress up in some rundown—" "I want you to remember what it feels like to be human," Helena whispered, tears now streaming down her face. "Because the man I married, he died somewhere along the way to the top. And I miss him, Marcus. God, I miss him so much." That's how Marcus Ashford found himself pulling into a cracked parking lot on Christmas Eve, the Santa suit scratching against his $500 shirt, the fake beard already making his face sweat. The Roosevelt Community Center looked like it had been forgotten by time itself. Peeling paint, broken windows patched with cardboard, a faded banner reading "Merry Christmas" hanging by a single nail. Children's laughter echoed from inside, a sound so foreign to Marcus's world of boardrooms and country clubs that it almost made him turn around. But something, maybe Helena's tears, maybe his own buried conscience, made him push through those doors. The warmth hit him first, not from heaters but from people, families crowded into a space barely big enough to hold them, their worn coats hanging on hooks, their faces lit with something Marcus hadn't seen in years: hope. Real, desperate, beautiful hope. A volunteer named Rosa greeted him with a smile that belonged on someone who had everything, not someone working in a place that had nothing. "You must be the Santa who volunteered." "Bless you, sir. These kids have been waiting all week. Some of them walked 3 miles to be here today." Rosa's voice trembled with emotion. "Most of them won't get anything else for Christmas. You're their magic today." Magic? Marcus almost laughed at the word. He'd spent his life dealing in concrete realities. Profit margins, stock options, hostile takeovers. Magic was for fools. But as he settled into the worn velvet chair, the foam cushion flat from years of use, something shifted in the air. The first child approached, a boy no more than 6, his shoes held together with duct tape, his eyes holding a universe of want. "Santa," the boy whispered, climbing onto Marcus's lap with a reverence that made Marcus's chest tighten. "I just want my mum to stop crying at night. Can you do that?" And that's when Marcus realized he had no idea what he was walking into. No idea that in less than an hour, a little girl with tangled dark hair and a dress 2 sizes too small would climb onto his lap, lean close to his ear and whisper something that would destroy him completely. Something that would make him question every single choice he'd ever made. Something that would reveal a truth so devastating, so beautiful, so utterly world-shattering that Marcus Ashford, the man who had everything, would finally understand he had nothing at all. Before we continue, this is very important for our channel. If this story is gripping you, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any outcome. And write in the comments from which country you're listening to us. Your support helps us continue bringing these stories that touch the heart. The boy's question hung in the air like smoke. "Can you make my mom stop crying at night?" Marcus felt something crack inside his chest, something he thought had fossilized years ago. He cleared his throat, the fake beard suddenly suffocating. "What's your name, son?" Marcus heard himself ask. his voice softer than he'd used in a decade. Jaden Torres. My mom works at 3 different places now, ever since my dad got sick. She thinks I don't hear her crying in the bathroom, but I do. Every night, Santa. Every single night. The boy's eyes were dry, too dry for a 6-year-old discussing his mother's tears. He'd already learned not to cry, already learned that childhood was a luxury he couldn't afford. Marcus's hands trembled as he held the small boy. In his world, problems were solved with money, with power, with a single phone call. But this was the kind of pain that made his billions feel like pocket change. Jaden, I promise you, things are going to get better. Your mom is a warrior, and warriors don't cry forever. But even as he said it, Marcus knew how empty those words were. How many times had he told his own children that everything money could buy was theirs, never realizing they were starving for something he'd forgotten how to give? The boy climbed down, and Marcus watched him return to a woman who looked 40 but was probably 28. Her hands raw and cracked, her smile brave and breaking. The line of children seemed endless. Each one climbed onto his lap, carrying stories that weighted more than they did. 8-year-old Destiny wanted her little sister to have a winter coat because they shared one, and Destiny always let her sister wear it to school. 10-year-old Cameron asked if Santa could fix his mom's car because she'd been walking 4 miles to work in the rain for 2 months. 9-year-old Isabella didn't want anything for herself. She just wanted to thank Santa for the food pantry because her family ate dinner now, even if it was just beans and rice. These children weren't asking for the latest phones or gaming consoles or designer sneakers like Marcus's own kids demanded every Christmas. They were asking for basics, for dignity, for mercy, for miracles that shouldn't have to be miracles at all. Marcus felt his carefully constructed worldview crumbling with each small voice, each gentle touch, each impossible wish. Rosa kept bringing him cups of coffee, terrible, watery coffee that somehow tasted better than anything served in his corporate cafeteria. She didn't know he could buy this entire building with what he spent on wine in a month. She just saw a volunteer giving his Christmas Eve to bring joy to forgotten children. "You're really good at this," Rosa said during a brief break, her eyes warm. "Most Santas just go through the motions, but you're actually listening to these kids. You're seeing them. Seeing them." Helena's words echoed back. When was the last time you actually saw people? He was seeing them now. God help him, he was seeing them now, and it was destroying him in the most beautiful, terrible way possible. But Marcus didn't know that the real destruction was still coming. Didn't know that in exactly 17 minutes, a little girl would walk through those doors and change everything he thought he understood about wealth, about poverty, about sacrifice, and about love. Her name was Lily Grace Morrison, and she was about to whisper 7 words that would haunt Marcus Ashford for the rest of his life. 7 words that would reveal a secret so devastating, so impossibly cruel, that it would bring a billionaire to his knees. But first, she had to arrive. And when she did, even the air in that cramped community center seemed to shift, as if the universe itself was holding its breath for what was about to unfold. She appeared like a whisper made flesh. While other children bounded towards Santa with the chaotic energy of hope, Lily Grace Morrison moved differently, carefully, as if the world were made of glass, and one wrong step might shatter everything. She couldn't have been more than 7, but her eyes carried the weight of someone who'd seen too much, survived too much, understood too much. Her dark hair was tangled into a braid that had been lovingly attempted, but poorly executed, the work of small hands trying to be grown up. Her dress, a faded yellow cotton thing with flowers that had been washed into ghosts, hung on her thin frame like it was remembering a bigger girl from seasons past. But it was her shoes that made Marcus's breath catch. They weren't just worn, they were a tragedy. Sneakers that had once been white, now grey with age and use, split along the sides where her feet had outgrown them months ago. Cardboard, actual cardboard, peeked through a hole in the sole. Yet she moved with a grace that seemed impossible for a child in such obvious poverty. She waited patiently as 2 more children finished their wishes, her hands clasped in front of her, her posture almost regal despite everything working against her dignity. Rosa noticed her, and her entire demeanor changed. She rushed over, kneeling down to Lily Grace's level. "Sweetie, where's your mama? I thought she was working today." "She is, Miss Rosa. Double shift at the diner, and then she has to clean the offices downtown. But she said I could come if I walked with Mrs. Chen from apartment 4B, and I did. I was very careful crossing the streets, just like Mama taught me." Lily Grace's voice was soft but clear, each word precisely formed, as if language itself was something precious she refused to waste. Rosa's eyes glistened. "Your mama is the hardest working woman I know, baby girl. You tell her Aunt Rosa said she's raising an angel." She looked up at Marcus. "This is Lily Grace. She's been waiting to see Santa all month." The little girl approached the chair, and Marcus found himself leaning forward, drawn by something he couldn't name. She stopped just short of him, studying his face with an intensity that made him uncomfortable. For a terrifying moment, Marcus wondered if somehow this child could see through the costume, through the beard, through the act, all the way down to the hollow man underneath. "Are you the real Santa?" Lily Grace asked, her head tilting slightly. "Or are you just a helper? Mama says sometimes Santa sends helpers because he can't be everywhere at once." Marcus felt his throat constrict. What was the right answer? What did this child need to hear? "What do you think?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Lily Grace considered this with the seriousness of a philosopher pondering existence. I think maybe it doesn't matter, because even if you're a helper, you're still doing Santa's work. And that's what counts, right? The work, not who gets the credit." 7 years old. This child was 7 years old, and she understood something about purpose and service that Marcus had spent 46 years avoiding. He felt tears pressing against his eyes and forced them back. Not yet. Not in front of her. "Would you like to sit with me, Lily Grace?" He patted his lap gently. She climbed up carefully, as if aware of her worn clothes, of her broken shoes, of all the ways she didn't match the clean, pressed perfection she probably imagined Santa's lap should require. She settled in, her small body barely weighing anything. Too light, Marcus realized with a sickening twist in his gut. This child wasn't eating enough. "So," Marcus said, his Santa voice cracking slightly, "what would you like for Christmas, sweetheart?" Lily Grace looked down at her hands, small delicate hands with fingernails bitten down to the quick. She was quiet for so long that Marcus thought maybe she wouldn't answer. Then she reached into the pocket of her thin dress and pulled out a folded piece of paper, worn soft from being handled too many times. "I drew this," she said quietly, "for you, or for Santa, or for whoever needed to see it." Marcus took the paper with trembling fingers and slowly unfolded it. What he saw there made his heart stop, made the entire world stop, because in that moment, Marcus Ashford realized this wasn't just another child with another sad story. This was something else entirely, something that would reach into his chest and rearrange everything he thought he knew about pain, about sacrifice, and about the unbearable price of love. The drawing was done in crayon, the cheap kind that broke easily, the kind handed out at schools and community centers because they were all anyone could afford. But what Lily Grace had created with those broken crayons was a masterpiece of heartbreak. 2 figures stood in the center of the page, one tall, one small. The tall figure wore what was clearly meant to be a waitress uniform, a simple dress with an apron drawn in faded pink. She had long dark hair just like Lily Grace's, and her smile was wide, but her eyes, even in a child's drawing, looked tired, so impossibly tired. The small figure was holding the tall figure's hand. She wore a yellow dress with flowers, the same dress Lily Grace was wearing right now. Above them, Lily Grace had drawn a sun, but it wasn't the typical bright yellow circle children drew. This sun was half hidden behind grey clouds, and its rays were short, as if it didn't have the strength to shine fully. In the corner of the page, in careful, painstaking letters, she'd written, "My mama is the strongest person in the world. She works so hard. I want her to rest." Marcus stared at the drawing, unable to speak. His vision blurred. His throat closed. In his pocket, his phone buzzed. Probably another email about another deal, another $1 million, another meaningless victory in a game he'd spent his life winning. None of it mattered. Nothing had ever mattered like this moment mattered. "That's beautiful, Lily Grace," he finally managed, his voice breaking. "Your mama is very lucky to have you." "No," Lily Grace said softly, shaking her head. "I'm lucky to have her. She gave up everything for me, Santa. Everything." The way she said that last word, everything, it carried a weight that made Marcus's chest ache. What did this child know? What had she witnessed? "Tell me about your mama," Marcus said, unable to stop himself, even though every word this child spoke was a knife turning in his gut. Lily Grace's face lit up with a love so pure it was almost painful to witness. "Her name is Clara. Clara Morrison," She's 29 years old, but people think she's older because she's so tired all the time. She works at Mel's Diner from 5 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then she cleans offices from 4 until midnight. Sometimes she comes home and her feet are bleeding from standing so much. She tries to hide it, but I see. I always see. Marcus felt something inside him crumbling. 29. This woman was 29 years old, younger than his own executive assistant, and she was destroying her body just to survive. She used to be a nurse, Lily Grace continued, her voice dropping to barely a whisper as if she was sharing a sacred secret. Did you know that, Santa? My mama was studying to be a real nurse at the hospital. She was so smart, the smartest person in her whole program, but then, Lily Grace's voice cracked, but then I got sick. The world stopped spinning. Marcus forgot to breathe. I had cancer, Santa. Leukemia. That's a big word for a bad thing in your blood. I was only 4 years old. Mama had to stop school to take care of me. She had to work 3 jobs to pay for my treatments because we didn't have good insurance. She sold everything. Her car, her computer, even her mama's wedding ring. She gave up her whole dream so I could live. Tears were streaming down Marcus's face now, hot and unstoppable. He didn't care anymore. Didn't care about maintaining the character, about being strong, about any of it. But I'm okay now, Lily Grace said quickly, seeing Santa's tears and misunderstanding them. I've been cancer-free for 2 whole years. The doctors say I'm a miracle. Mama says I'm her miracle, so please don't be sad, Santa. This is supposed to be a happy story. I survived. That's the happy part. But Marcus understood what Lily Grace was too young to fully grasp. Yes, she survived. But her mother had sacrificed everything, her education, her career, her entire future, to make that survival possible. And now Clara Morrison was trapped in a life of endless labor, her dreams buried under medical bills and minimum wage jobs, her daughter alive but her own life over before it had truly begun. Lily Grace, Marcus whispered, his hands shaking as he held the drawing. What do you want for Christmas, sweetheart? What can Santa bring you? The little girl looked up at him with those ancient eyes, and Marcus knew, he absolutely knew, that whatever she was about to say would destroy him completely. Lily Grace took a deep breath, her small chest rising and falling with the weight of what she was about to say. She glanced around the room, at the other children laughing, at Rosa helping with cookies, at the worn decorations that tried so hard to be festive, and then she looked back at Marcus, with a resolve that shouldn't exist in someone so young. Can I whisper it? She asked. It's kind of private, and Mama says private things should be whispered, not shouted. Marcus nodded, unable to form words. He leaned down, and Lily Grace cupped her tiny hands around his ear. Her breath was warm, sweet with the hot chocolate Rosa had given her, and then she spoke. 7 words, just 7 words that shattered Marcus Ashford's soul into pieces he wasn't sure could ever be put back together. I want to give Mama her dream back. The simplicity of it. The devastating, beautiful, impossible simplicity of it. Not toys, not clothes, not even the basics that every other child had asked for. This 7-year-old girl wanted to somehow restore what her mother had sacrificed for her survival. Wanted to return the nursing degree, the career, the future that had been buried under medical bills and minimum wage desperation. Wanted to undo the cost of her own life. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but hold this child who understood sacrifice better than most adults ever would. The tears came harder now, soaking into his fake beard, his shoulders shaking with sobs he couldn't control. Please don't cry, Lily Grace whispered, her small hand patting his shoulder with heartbreaking gentleness. I didn't mean to make you sad. Maybe it's too big of a wish. Mama says sometimes we have to wish for smaller things because the big things are too hard even for magic. But that wasn't why Marcus was crying. He was crying because he suddenly understood the obscene cruelty of wealth inequality in a way no statistic or news report had ever made him understand. He was crying because his teenage son had thrown a tantrum last week when Marcus bought him the wrong color Ferrari for his 16th birthday. He was crying because his daughter had 3 closets full of designer clothes she'd never worn, while Lily Grace wore a dress held together by hope and her mother's determination. He was crying because he'd spent $50,000 on a watch, and this child's mother had sold her own mother's wedding ring to keep her daughter alive. Your wish isn't too big, Marcus finally managed, his voice raw and broken. Your wish is perfect. You're perfect. And your mama, his voice cracked completely. Your mama is the kind of hero that people like me forget exists." Lily Grace smiled then, a real smile full of relief and hope, and the kind of trust that could break a man's heart. "So, you'll help? You'll help Mama get her dream back?" Marcus looked at this child, this miraculous, beautiful, impossibly wise child, and made a decision that would change everything. Not just for Lily Grace, not just for Clara, but for himself, for his family, for every single person in his orbit. "Yes," he whispered back, making a promise he didn't yet know how to keep but would die trying to fulfill. "I'm going to help your mama. I promise you, Lily Grace. I promise on everything I am." Rosa called out that it was almost closing time. Families were gathering their children, bundling them into thin coats against the December cold. Lily Grace climbed down from Marcus's lap, carefully folding her drawing back into her pocket, like the treasure it was. "Thank you, Santa," she said with a small curtsy. Where had she learned such an old-fashioned gesture? And then she was gone, walking hand in hand with elderly Mrs. Chen, her broken shoes leaving prints in the light snow that had begun to fall. Marcus sat frozen in that chair, watching her disappear into the night, his entire world view in ruins around him. Rosa approached with concern in her eyes. "Sir, are you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." But that wasn't what Marcus had seen. He'd seen the truth, the brutal, beautiful, unforgivable truth about the world he'd helped create. A world where children like Lily Grace existed in the shadows of his skyscrapers, where mothers like Clara destroyed themselves to save their babies, while men like him accumulated wealth they couldn't spend in 10 lifetimes. "Rosa," Marcus said, his voice hoarse, "that little girl, Lily Grace Morrison, I need to know everything about her family. Everything." Rosa's expression shifted from concern to something deeper, a protective fierceness that reminded Marcus of a mother bear guarding her cub. "Why?" she asked, her voice suddenly cold. "Why do you need to know about them?" It was the right question, the suspicious question. In this neighborhood, when wealthy strangers started asking questions about vulnerable families, it rarely ended well. Marcus realized he was still wearing the Santa suit, still hiding behind the costume, still operating from the shadows like he'd done his entire career. "Because I want to help," he said simply, meeting Rosa's eyes with a directness that felt foreign to him. "That little girl is what she asked for. I can't walk away from it, I won't." Rosa studied him for a long moment, her weathered hands crossed over her chest. Finally, she sighed. "Clara Morrison is the best person I've ever known. And I've known a lot of people in my 63 years on this earth. She came to this neighborhood 4 years ago, right after Lily Grace finished her cancer treatments. They had nothing. I mean, nothing. Clara was so broken down she could barely speak, but she never complained, never asked for handouts, just worked. Lord, how that woman works." Rosa's eyes grew distant with memory. She applied to every program, every scholarship, every possible way to finish her nursing degree. But she had gaps in her employment, medical debt that destroyed her credit, and no one would take a chance on her. She was 25 years old with more responsibility than most people carry in a lifetime, and every door slammed in her face. Marcus felt rage building in his chest, not at Rosa, but at a system he'd benefited from his entire life, while people like Clara Morrison were crushed beneath its wheels. Where does she work now? Both places. Mel's Diner on Burnside Street, and she cleans at the Ashford Tower downtown. Rosa said the name without recognition, without knowing she was talking to the man who owned that very building. She's been trying to save money for Lily Grace's college fund. Can you imagine? That woman is drowning and she's still thinking about her daughter's future, not her own survival. Ashford Tower. Clara Morrison scrubbed toilets in the building that bore Marcus's name. She walked through lobbies filled with his portraits, past plaques celebrating his philanthropy, cleaning up after people who made more in a day than she'd see in a year. The irony was so bitter Marcus could taste it. "Does she know about the nursing school scholarship program at Portland State?" Marcus asked, his mind already racing through possibilities. "They have grants for—" "She's applied 3 times, Rosa interrupted. "They rejected her every time, said she was too old, that the gap in her education was too long, that her circumstances made her a risky investment." The way Rosa said those last 2 words made it clear she was quoting someone, and the quote had left scars. A risky investment. That's what they called a woman who nearly killed herself saving her daughter's life. Marcus stood abruptly, the Santa suit suddenly unbearable against his skin. He needed air, he needed to think. He needed to figure out how to keep his promise to Lily Grace without revealing who he really was. Not yet. Not until he understood the full scope of what he was dealing with. "Thank you, Rosa," he said quietly, "for trusting me with this, for taking care of them." Rosa's expression softened slightly. "It's Christmas Eve, Santa. If you're for real, if you're really going to help and not just another person making empty promises, then you better move fast. Clara's going to lose her apartment next month. The rent went up and she can't cover it even with 3 jobs. They'll be homeless by February." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Homeless. Lily Grace, that beautiful, wise, miracle child, could be living on the streets in 2 months, while Marcus's family decided which of their 4 houses to vacation in. He walked out of the community center into the cold Portland night, the snow falling heavier now, each flake a tiny accusation. His phone rang. Helena. He answered, his hands still shaking. "Marcus, how did it go?" His wife's voice was tentative, hopeful. "Helena," Marcus said, his voice cracking, "I need you to do something for me. I need you to pull every string we have, every connection, every favor, every single resource we can access. Because I just met a little girl who reminded me why we're supposed to be alive, and I'm not going to let her down." Helena didn't ask questions. After 15 years of marriage, she knew the tone in her husband's voice that meant something fundamental had shifted. Within 2 hours, she'd assembled what she called the team, their family lawyer, their accountant, and surprisingly, the dean of Portland State University's nursing program, who happened to owe Helena a favor from a fundraiser 3 years prior. But Marcus couldn't wait for meetings and official channels. On Christmas morning, while his own children tore through presents they'd forget by New Year's, Marcus drove to Mel's Diner on Burnside Street. The place was exactly what he expected. Worn vinyl booths, cracked linoleum floors, a bell above the door that hadn't rung right in years. A faded sign in the window read, "Christmas Special Turkey Dinner, $6.99. She was there, Clara Morrison. Marcus recognized her instantly from Lily Grace's drawing, though the reality was so much harder than crayon could capture. She moved between tables with practiced efficiency, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail that had been neat at the start of her shift but was now falling apart. Her uniform was clean but faded, the name tag slightly crooked. She smiled at every customer, a smile that never quite reached her exhausted eyes. Marcus sat in a corner booth and watched her work. Watched her laugh at an old man's joke. Watched her sneak extra bacon onto a homeless veteran's plate. Watched her stay calm when a businessman yelled at her because his coffee wasn't hot enough. She took it all with grace that shouldn't be possible for someone running on empty. When she finally approached his table, their eyes met, and Marcus felt the full weight of what he was about to do. He was about to insert himself into this woman's life, this stranger who didn't know he held the power to change everything for her or destroy everything she'd built. "Good morning, sir. Merry Christmas. What can I get you?" Her voice was warm, despite the exhaustion carved into every line of her face. "Coffee, please," and Marcus hesitated. "Your daughter, Lily Grace. She's a remarkable little girl." Clara's entire demeanor changed. Her tired eyes suddenly blazed with fierce maternal protection. "How do you know my daughter?" The warmth was gone, replaced by ice and fear. Marcus realized his mistake immediately. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to frighten you. I was the Santa at Roosevelt Community Center yesterday." She sat on my lap. She showed me her drawing. The tension in Clara's shoulders eased slightly, but the wariness remained. "Oh, yes. She couldn't stop talking about Santa last night. Said you cried. She was worried she'd upset you with her wish." "She didn't upset me," Marcus said quietly. "She changed me. Mrs. Morrison, could you sit down for just a moment, please?" Clara glanced nervously toward the kitchen where her manager was visible through the serving window. "I can't. I'll get in trouble. I'm sorry." She started to turn away. "What if I told you I could help?" The words tumbled out before Marcus could stop them. "What if I told you that Lily Grace's wish, giving you back your dream, what if it didn't have to be impossible?" Clara froze. Slowly she turned back to face him, and Marcus saw something devastating in her expression. It wasn't hope. It was the exhausted wariness of someone who'd been promised miracles before and learned they were all lies. "Sir, I don't know who you are or what you think you know about my life, but you wanted to be a nurse," Marcus interrupted gently. "You were studying at Portland State. You gave it up when Lily Grace got sick. You've applied for scholarships 3 times and been rejected 3 times. You work here from 5 a.m. to 2 p.m., then you clean offices at Ashford Tower from 4 p.m. to midnight. You're about to lose your apartment because the rent increased and even 3 jobs can't cover it. The color drained from Clara's face. Who are you? Marcus took a deep breath. This was it. The moment where he stopped hiding, stopped operating from the shadows, stopped being the man who wrote checks from a distance and called it compassion. My name is Marcus Ashford. I own the building where you work nights. And I'm here to tell you that your daughter made me a promise yesterday, and I intend to keep it. Clara's coffee pot slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor in an explosion of glass and hot liquid. She didn't seem to notice. She just stared at Marcus, her face cycling through shock, disbelief, and then something that looked dangerously close to rage. You, she whispered, her voice shaking. You're Marcus Ashford. The Marcus Ashford. She took a step back, and Marcus saw her hands ball into fists. I clean your toilets, I scrub the floors where you walk. I empty your trash cans, and I dust the pictures of you shaking hands with presidents and celebrities. And you're sitting here in my diner telling me you want to help? Other customers were starting to stare. The manager emerged from the kitchen, concern etched on his face. But Clara wasn't finished. Do you know what your building manager said when I asked about health insurance? He laughed. Actually laughed and said, cleaning staff are independent contractors, so you don't have to provide benefits. Do you know how many nights I've worked in that building, scrubbing marble floors that cost more than my yearly salary, while my daughter waited at home with Mrs. Chen because I couldn't afford childcare? Marcus sat there taking it, knowing he deserved every word. This was the reality he'd been insulated from. These were the consequences of his efficiency measures and cost-cutting strategies. Real people, real pain, real lives crushed under the weight of his profit margins. You're right, Marcus said quietly. Everything you're saying is absolutely right. I've been blind. Worse than blind, I've been willfully ignorant. I built an empire and never once looked at the people holding it up. Clara, honey, what's going on? The manager, a kind-faced man named Earl, approached cautiously. Who is this man? He says he's Marcus Ashford, Clara said, her voice breaking. He says he wants to help. But rich men don't help, Earl. They promise. They pose for photos. They write checks to make themselves feel better. But they don't actually help. Marcus stood slowly, keeping his hands visible, non-threatening. You're right not to trust me. I haven't earned your trust. But Clara, I saw your daughter yesterday. I looked into her eyes and she asked me, not for toys, not for clothes, not for anything for herself. She asked me to give you back your dream. And I realized something. For 20 years, I've been asking the wrong question. What question? Clara asked, her voice thick with unshed tears. I've been asking, how do I make more money? When I should have been asking, what's my money supposed to be for? Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. This isn't charity. This isn't me trying to buy my way into heaven. This is me trying to fix something I helped break. Clara stared at the envelope like it might explode. I don't want your money. It's not money, Marcus said gently. It's a letter from the Dean of Portland State University's nursing program. Full scholarship. All 4 semesters you need to complete your degree. Stipend for living expenses while you study. And guaranteed placement in our hospital network when you graduate. The silence in the diner was absolute. Clara's hands trembled as she reached for the envelope, then pulled back. This is a joke. This has to be a joke. It's not a joke. Helena's voice came from the doorway. Marcus turned to see his wife standing there, elegant even in casual clothes, tears streaming down her face. My husband called me at midnight on Christmas Eve and said he'd met an angel. He meant your daughter, Clara. And he's right. Lily Grace is an angel. But so are you. Helena crossed the diner and took Clara's hands in hers. I lost my mother to cancer when I was Lily Grace's age. My father fell apart. He couldn't handle it. And I spent my childhood wishing, praying, that someone would have fought for me the way you fought for your daughter. You gave up everything, everything. And you did it with grace and love and strength that most people don't possess. Clara was crying now, deep sobs that shook her whole body. Earl put a protective arm around her shoulders, but even he was wiping his eyes. There's more, Marcus continued, his own voice unsteady. Your apartment. The rent increase is being rescinded. In fact, your rent is being reduced by 40%, retroactive to last year. Stop, Clara said suddenly, pulling her hands from Helena's. Just stop. You don't understand. I can't accept this. any of this. Marcus felt his heart drop. Clara, please. No, you don't understand, Clara interrupted, her voice fierce despite the tears. I have medical debt, nearly $200,000 from Lily Grace's treatment. Even with reduced rent and a scholarship, that debt follows me everywhere. It destroyed my credit. It's why I can't get approved for anything. It's a chain around my neck that will never break. So, thank you for the gesture, Mr. Ashford. But I learned a long time ago that there's no such thing as a fairy tale ending for people like me. The weight of that number hung in the air. $200,000. Marcus spent more than that on his yacht's annual maintenance. His daughter's Sweet 16 party had cost $300,000. The watch on his wrist cost $50,000. And this woman, this incredible, selfless woman, was being crushed under debt she'd accumulated, saving her daughter's life. The debt is gone, Marcus said quietly. Clara blinked. What? Your medical debt. All of it. I had my lawyers contact the hospital and the collection agencies this morning. It's been paid in full. You're clear. Clara's legs gave out. Earl caught her, helping her into the nearest booth. She sat there staring at nothing, her breath coming in short gasps. That's not possible. You can't just... People don't just... People should, Helena said, sitting down across from her. People with resources should use them for exactly this, for exactly you. Marcus has been writing checks to cancer research foundations for years, Clara, millions of dollars, but he never once thought about the people drowning in debt from fighting that cancer. He never saw past the statistics to the actual human cost. Marcus pulled out a chair and sat down, his expensive suit incongruous in the shabby diner. I've been angry at the world for 20 years, Clara. Angry that my father died poor. Angry that we struggled. Angry that I had to fight for everything, so I fought. I clawed my way up and I told myself that my success justified everything, every person I stepped on, every corner I cut, every worker I underpaid, because it was just business. But yesterday your daughter looked at me with complete trust and asked me to give you back what you sacrificed for her. And I realized I've spent 2 decades building an empire on the backs of people like you while telling myself I was the hero of my own story. He reached across the table, and after a moment's hesitation, Clara let him take her hand. You are not charity, Clara Morrison. You are an investment, the best investment I will ever make, because when you become a nurse, and you will become a nurse, you're going to save lives. You're going to be there for other families going through what you went through, and maybe, just maybe, you'll be the person who holds someone's hand and tells them they're going to survive this. That's worth more than every dollar I've ever made. Clara was sobbing now, her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. Earl stood behind her, tears streaming down his weathered face. Other customers were crying too, strangers moved by a moment of grace they'd accidentally witnessed. There's one more thing, Marcus said, glancing at Helena, who nodded encouragingly. Your position at Ashford Tower, you're done cleaning. As of today, you're the new director of our employee wellness program. $60,000 a year, full benefits, flexible hours so you can attend classes. Your job will be to make sure that no one who works in my buildings, not the executives, not the cleaning staff, no one, ever feels invisible again. Clara looked up, her face streaked with tears and disbelief. Why? Why would you do all this? You don't even know me. Because your daughter believes in magic, Marcus said simply. And she made me believe in it too. Because she asked for nothing for herself and everything for you. Because she reminded me that the measure of a man isn't what he accumulates, it's what he gives back. And because, Clara, you deserve someone fighting for you the way you fought for Lily Grace. 3 months later, Marcus stood in the hallway of Portland State University's nursing building waiting. Through the classroom window, he could see Clara Morrison, no longer exhausted, no longer beaten down, sitting in the front row, her hand raised to answer a question, her face animated with the joy of learning something she'd believed was lost forever. She wore scrubs now, the student kind, and somehow they looked more dignified than any designer dress Marcus had ever seen. But that wasn't why he was there. He was waiting for the small figure running down the hallway, her new shoes, proper shoes that fit, squeaking on the polished floor. Lily Grace spotted him and her face lit up like sunrise. "Mr. Marcus!" She launched herself at him and he caught her, lifting her up. She wasn't so light anymore, Clara was making sure of that. 3 good meals a day had brought color to her cheeks, strength to her small frame. "How's school, Lily Grace?" Marcus asked, setting her down. "I got an A on my spelling test, and guess what? Mama says when she graduates we're going to get a real house, with a yard, and maybe a dog. The words tumbled out in that beautiful way children have of making everything sound like the greatest miracle. Your mama's going to be an amazing nurse, Marcus said, kneeling down to her level. Just like you're going to be an amazing whatever you decide to be. Lily Grace grew serious, her old soul eyes studying his face. You kept your promise, Mr. Marcus. You gave Mama her dream back. Santa was real, after all. Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest, the one that appeared every time he thought about how close he'd come to missing this, to missing her, to staying the hollow man in the expensive suit who never actually saw anyone. You know what I learned, Lily Grace? You were the real Santa. You gave me a gift I didn't know I needed. What gift? She asked, tilting her head. You reminded me how to feel, how to see, how to be human again. The classroom door opened and Clara emerged, textbooks in her arms, her face glowing with purpose. When she saw Marcus with Lily Grace, her smile grew wider. No longer the exhausted, careful smile of someone afraid to hope, but the genuine smile of someone who'd survived the impossible and come out stronger. Mama! Mr. Marcus came to visit. Lily Grace ran to her mother, who set down her books to scoop her up. I can see that, baby girl. Clara looked at Marcus with gratitude that still made him uncomfortable. He didn't deserve it. He was just fixing what should never have been broken. Actually, I came because I have news, Marcus said. Remember Rosa from the community center? Clara's face softened. Of course. She's like a mother to half that neighborhood. She's going to be the new manager of the Ashford Foundation's Community Outreach Program. We're converting the Roosevelt Center into a full resource hub, job training, medical clinic, after-school programs, and a scholarship fund for families like yours. Rosa will run it all. And Clara, when you graduate, there's a position waiting for you there if you want it. Running the medical clinic. Clara's eyes filled with tears. The good kind this time. Marcus, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just promise me you'll keep being exactly who you are. Keep fighting. Keep loving. Keep being the kind of person who raises daughters who believe in magic. 6 months after that, Marcus Ashford stood at his son's college graduation. His son, who he'd sat down with after Christmas and told the truth, that he'd raised him to value all the wrong things, that wealth without purpose was just weight. That privilege demanded responsibility. His son had cried. They'd both cried. And then his son had done something that shocked Marcus. He'd changed his major from business to social work and had started volunteering at the Roosevelt Center every weekend. His daughter had sold half her clothes and donated the money to cancer research, not because Marcus asked her to, but because she'd met Lily Grace and Clara at a foundation event, and something had shifted in her heart too. Helena had found her purpose again, working alongside Rosa, rebuilding forgotten communities one family at a time. And Marcus? Marcus had learned that the greatest wealth wasn't in his bank accounts, or his buildings, or his name on corporate towers. The greatest wealth was in the 7 words a little girl had whispered to a broken billionaire dressed as Santa. I want to give Mama her dream back. Those 7 words had saved 2 lives, Clara's and his own. 3 years later, on Christmas Eve, Marcus returned to the Roosevelt Center, now gleaming and full of hope. Clara was there, in her nurse's uniform, running the clinic that served hundreds of families. Lily Grace was there too, now 10 years old, helping younger children write letters to Santa. And when Lily Grace saw him, she ran over and hugged him tight. You're still the best Santa ever, she whispered, because you taught me that real magic isn't about wishes coming true. It's about people choosing to love each other enough to make those wishes come true. Marcus held her close, this child who'd changed everything, and whispered back, No, sweetheart, you taught me that. Before we say goodbye, we want to hear from you. Write in the comments what country you're listening from. Your support helps us reach more hearts with these stories. And if this story touched you, please subscribe and hit that bell so you never miss another moment of hope, love, and transformation. These stories matter because you matter. Until next time, remember, sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the smallest voices.